On January 21st, 1986, a star is born in Patna. His name, Sushant Singh Rajput. But then, 34 years later, on June 14th, 2020,
the Bollywood star Sushant Singh Rajput has died in Mumbai. He was found hanging in his residence today. Rajput's death comes days after his former manager Disha Salyan committed suicide.
how could this happen? If you knew Sushant Singh Rajput, if you had followed him, if you had followed his journey, this was not something that you had ever expected in your worst nightmares. A jolly, happy, intelligent human being who decided to prematurely end his life. And it took me a whole day to process this news. I was very disturbed. And that's when I realized that I needed to use this platform to ask, why? If you're Indian, you know that suicide is not something unheard of. In fact, out of 800,000 suicides every year, 135,000 on average happen in India. I remember watching Three Idiots. I'm sure you guys remember too.
सब सोच रहे हैं सुसाइड है सर। पोस्टमार्टम रिपोर्ट में आया है मौत का कारण इंटेंस प्रेशर ऑन विंड पाइप रिजल्टिंग इन चोकिंग। वो बेवकूफ सोच रहे हैं कि इधर प्रेशर पड़ने की वजह से मर गया, और पिछले 4 साल से जो यहाँ प्रेशर पड़ रहा है उसका क्या? वो तो रिपोर्ट में है ही नहीं सर। ये सुसाइड नहीं मर्डर है सर।
Government of India actually classifies a death as suicide if it meets these 3 criteria. A, it is an unnatural death. The intent to die originated within the person. There is a reason for the person to end his or her life. The reason may have been specified in a suicide note or unspecified. So, which of the boxes does this incident check? Yes, it was an unnatural death. The intent to die originated within the person. Are we sure about that? I'm not so sure if the intent to die came from within. And as of today, there has been no suicide note that has been found. Now, I'm not implying that Sushant Singh Rajput was murdered, but I'm referring more to the circumstances or the culture that exists in Bollywood that can force a person to the edge. A person as level-headed as Sushant was pushed to the edge, that just ending his life was the only choice he thought he had left. Few main reasons behind the suicides in India: bankruptcy, death of a dear person, fall in social reputation, unemployment, and professional or career problem. I realized that all of these things were a factor that led up to Sushant's death. And you'd say, man, an educated person took his life. How could he not see that this is not the answer? Well, 80% of suicides are actually committed by educated people. People need to realize that depression is a disease, is an illness, and the first thing it attacks is your rational behavior, your ability to decide what is right and what is wrong. Every actor goes through a stage where they have a few flops or mediocre hits or movies that just don't do well. You know, everybody has that career graph. That shouldn't be too big of a deal. He still had contracts with YRF. If you have watched any Bollywood movie, you recognize these logos at the beginning of the movie. These are one of the biggest production houses in the world. In fact, YRF has a net worth of almost $1 billion US. And Dharma Productions is not that far behind. And before you question why I'm singling out just these two, it's because there is some credible news out there that due to some personal unknown issues between Sushant and Aditya Chopra, who is the chairman of YRF, allegedly Sanjay Leela Bansali had approached Aditya Chopra to let Sushant work in Ram Leela, although he was under contract. Aditya refused. And then strangely, Ranveer Singh, who was also under contract with YRF, was allowed to do Ram Leela. Sushant was supposed to do Befikre, which he was then later replaced by Ranveer Singh. He was then supposed to do Pani, directed by Shekhar Kapoor and supposed to be produced by YRF. It got delayed for a couple years, and then finally the project just didn't work out. YRF backed out, the project cooled down, Sheikh couldn't find any funding for that project, and Sushant was left to hang and dry. As an actor, if you lose 3 or 4 movies, such big 3 or 4 movies like that in your career, that can completely derail your career. And in some ways, it felt a little odd that these incidents had happened. While this whole tussle with Aditya Chopra, Shekhar Kapoor, and Sushant were going on, Karan Johar also got involved in that fight. I am not exactly sure what happened, and knowing Bollywood, you never know these things unless something credible comes out. It's all a speculation that Karan and Sushant also had a fallout, due to which Sushant lost almost 7 movies. Out of nowhere, the clean image Sushant Singh Rajput had these smear campaign against him. These blinds coming in left and right. For the uninitiated, blinds are just news articles that do not have a source or usually are anonymous. And some of these rumors can destroy a person's career. All these stories included him being rude to his co-actors, being late to the shoots, and being a little extra friendly to his co-workers. The underlying object behind these articles, these news stories, the smear campaign, now seems to be just a way to undermine his character and to push directors, producers away from Sushant. Leading up to June 14th, Sushant actually had given plenty of hints that he wasn't doing so well. If you go look at his Twitter cover picture, it features Vincent van Gogh's A Starry Night, which he drew while being at the peak of his depression. A few of his Instagram posts also suggest his struggle between choosing the struggle of life or giving up altogether. He was also seen practically begging his followers to watch his movies because he did not have a godfather that could support him, or he would be thrown out of Bollywood. Now, who's to blame? Boycotting Karan Johar's movie has gotten a bit of momentum, and his post after Sushant's death, where he admits that he hadn't been in touch with Sushant for the last 1 year. I found that post a little insincere. It almost felt like that he made that post about himself. Now, personally, I don't feel that it is to blame on one or two person. What really stands out to me is the toxic culture that Bollywood has created for itself. The Indian film industry is ruled by these few large production houses, and if you don't do as they say, or if you don't keep them happy, you can kiss your career goodbye. It's like when you work for a company, and if they blacklist you, good luck finding a job. Where is the union that protects these actors against such wrongdoing and such malpractice? Why are the journalists not held to higher standards? Why are these people allowed to tarnish and defame actors without solid backing and without solid sources? Sushant was seen in his interviews and in his press conferences pointing out that he was isolated. He was not invited to parties. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should feel bad and you should be forced to be best friends with everyone, but it almost felt like it was done on purpose, isolating Sushant because he was an outsider. In fact, it reminds me of Karan Johar's famous Student of the Year franchise, where the whole essence of the plot is a few elites making this very elite club and not letting anybody else in, just because they're poor or they're outside of their elite circle. It's ironical, isn't it? That Bollywood has created this elite circle that does not let anybody else in. If you're an outsider, good luck. In fact, if you go look through any of the interviews where Sushant was belittled, not considered as a part of Bollywood, even not considered in the A-list of superstars, When his movie Chichore recently did well, not one co-actor posted or promoted the movie. In fact, a movie that could have even changed his career went unnoticed. It almost felt like the toxic culture came out of this insecurity, this mean-spirited nature of keeping this club very exclusive. I'm not here to complain that every person deserves to win and everyone should get a participation trophy. What I am advocating for is a level playing field. As long as people get unfair chances, just because they belong to a certain community, they belong to a certain socioeconomic stature, I don't think I can support it. And neither should you. We need to hold the Indian film industry accountable for their attitude towards anybody who comes from outside. These hypocritical posts with Sushant after he died is what pissed me off even more. You pushed him outside the circle. You pushed him to the edge. And now you pretend like you were always there for him. You sicken me. You disgust me. Stop this dirty game. We, the viewers, make you. You don't make us. Take this godlike attitude that you can shape other people's lives out of here. And Indian people, when they get together behind any idea, they will do it. They can make you and they can destroy you. And this is not the first time that somebody has given up on their life because they couldn't handle not just the pressure, but the unfairness. It's not justice. It's not fair. I don't want to hear about another Sushant Singh Rajput giving up on his life because of you and your dirty politics. Change this toxic culture. That's what I ask of you. Just boycotting Karan Johar's movie is not enough. Lastly, wherever you are, Sushant, just know that your death is not going to go in vain. We all promise things will change. I cannot stand Bollywood since I've learned these things. And neither should you. We can make a change. That's all I have to say.